Welcome back to Elite Star Global, where voices become legends. Today, we step away from the stage. We turn down the music, just for a moment, and we step into something far more intimate. Something fans have whispered about for years. Something that lives not in the spotlights of the Arena di Verona, not in the ovations of Madison Square Garden, but in the quiet, fragile spaces between performances. Today, we talk about love. Because here is the question that millions of fans around the world have asked, in Italian, in Spanish, in Japanese, in Portuguese, in English, sometimes in tears, sometimes in laughter: who holds the hearts of Piero Barone, Ignazio Bashetto, and Gianluca Ginobili when the curtain comes down? 3 young men gave the world their voices. But who, if anyone, holds their hearts? This is not gossip. This is not tabloid noise. This is a story about 3 extraordinary human beings. Boys who became men in public, whose voices matured on world stages, and who have navigated one of the most complicated intersections in modern life, the place where fame meets love. Stay with us. Because what you are about to discover is far richer, far more emotional, and far more human than you might expect. Piero Barone arrived in the world of music like a force of nature. Born in Nero, Sicily, on March 24, 1993, Piero carried the passion of the Mediterranean in every note he sang. That volcanic tenor, full of urgency, heat, and almost unbearable longing, told you everything you needed to know about who he was. He felt everything deeply. Of course he did. For years, fans scrutinized Piero's life offstage with the intensity of devoted followers watching a beloved character in a long-running story. And Piero, being Piero, was not always easy to read. He was the most guarded of the 3. His silences were eloquent. His smiles, carefully timed. But the cameras caught moments. A glance held a beat too long in an interview. A cryptic Instagram caption. A quiet absence from public life during a period when something seemed to have shifted. Fans who followed closely said they could hear it in the music, a specific shade of ache in his voice during certain live performances of Il Mondo or Grande Amore, that felt less like performance and more like testimony. What fans came to understand over time is that Piero's relationship with love, romantic love, has mirrored his relationship with music: intense, private, all-consuming. He has been notably discreet. No public relationships confirmed with fanfare. No red carpet appearances with a partner. And yet, those who know him well have spoken of a man who loves with the same fire he brings to every high note. A man who, when he gives his heart, gives it completely. His silence on love was never emptiness. It was the most Piero thing about him, to feel everything, and share only the music. As of what fans know, Piero remains private about his current personal life. What is undeniable is that the longing in his voice is real. It has always been real. And whatever love has shaped him, whether joyful, whether painful, it lives in every performance he has ever given. The stage is where Piero's heart speaks loudest. And every fan who has ever wept during his solos knows, they heard something true. If Piero is fire, Ignazio Bashetto is sunlight. Born in Bologna on October 4, 1994, Ignazio brought a warmth to Il Volo that balanced the trio's emotional palette in ways that even the most analytical music critics struggled to fully articulate. His tenor was bright, his laugh was enormous, and his capacity for joy seemed almost unfair in its abundance. Ignazio has been the most publicly open of the 3 when it comes to matters of the heart, and fans adored him for it. There were years of tender hints. A social media post here, a comment on a friend's photo there, the specific kind of glow a person gets when they are, unmistakably, in love. Over time, it became known, through careful fan observation and occasional public moments, that Ignazio had found something real. Something quiet and consistent, not the kind of love that seeks cameras, but the kind that makes a person steadier, calmer, more themselves on stage. Fans noticed. They said you could hear it in the gentleness of his middle voice passages, in the way he smiled during ballads as if remembering something no audience was meant to see. What makes Ignazio's love story so moving to the global fanbase is precisely its simplicity. Here is one of the most celebrated tenors of his generation, a man who has sung at the Vatican, who has reduced audiences in Buenos Aires to tears, who has stood on stages that most singers only dream of, and yet, love for him has been something quiet. Something human. Something that requires no stage. Ignazio found a way to hold stardom in one hand and ordinary love in the other. And never dropped either. Fans around the world have celebrated that. They have written letters about it. In forums from Mexico City to Milan, from Tokyo to Sao Paulo, the recurring theme is the same: Ignazio makes you believe that extraordinary people can have ordinary happiness. And in a world that so often tells us fame and love cannot coexist, that is a revolutionary idea. And then there is Gianluca. Gianluca Ginobili, born in Roseto degli Abruzzi on February 11, 1995. The youngest of the three. The one whose baritone voice, velvet and vast and seemingly older than his years, made audiences feel, from the very beginning, that they were in the presence of someone who understood love at a cellular level. Gianluca has always been the romantic of the group. Not in a performed way. Not in the way of someone playing a role. But in the truest sense, a person who sees the world through beauty, who connects to music through its emotional architecture, who has spoken in interviews about his Abruzzese home, his family, his roots, with a tenderness that is almost painful to witness. For years, Gianluca's personal life remained deeply private. He gave you everything on stage and almost nothing off it. That discretion built a mythology around him that fans found irresistible. Then came moments, gradual, gentle, where his personal life began to quietly surface. Not through announcements. Not through press releases. But in the way of a man who is no longer hiding something because he no longer needs to. Gianluca is believed by many close observers and longtime fans to have found stability and love in recent years, the kind that settles into a person's carriage, that smooths the edges of their public demeanor, that shows in the unhurried confidence of a man who has somewhere warm to return to. It is visible, they say, in how he inhabits his low notes now. Less searching. More certain. He always sang like a man in love. Now, those who watch closely say, he finally lives like one too. Whatever the truth of Gianluca's heart, this much is beyond debate: he is a man who was made by love. His artistry is constructed from it. Every phrase he sings is evidence of a person who has loved deeply, perhaps imperfectly, perhaps painfully, certainly beautifully. And his global fanbase, from Europe to Latin America, recognizes something of their own love stories in his voice. That is the miracle of Gianluca Ginobili. But here is the truth that sits beneath all of it. Here is the thing that fans sometimes miss when they are searching for names and photographs and confirmation of romances. The greatest love story in the history of Il Volo is not a private one. It is the one that happens every single time the three of them walk onto a stage together. Piero, Ignazio, and Gianluca have spent more than 15 years intertwined, their voices, their careers, their growing pains, their triumphs. They began as children who barely knew each other, selected by a television competition, thrown together by fate and music. They could have been rivals. They became brothers. There is a specific moment, it has happened dozens of times, in dozens of cities, where the three of them reach the climax of a performance simultaneously, and the sound they produce is something no single human voice could ever make. It is the sound of trust. Of shared history. Of people who have seen each other's worst moments and chosen to remain. Fans in the audience go silent at those moments. Not politely silent. Stunned silent. The kind of silence that precedes tears. Fans who attended their concerts in Rome, in Madrid, in Mexico City have described the same sensation independently. It felt like watching three people who genuinely loved each other. That is not a small thing. In an industry built on competition and ego and contractual obligation, Illinois Volo has somehow produced something rarer and more durable. Genuine brotherhood. 14 cities, 15 years, 3 voices, and a love between them that no camera has ever fully captured. The fan reaction, a global family responding to human truth. You cannot tell the story of IL Volo's relationship lives without telling the story of the fans who have watched those lives unfold. Because the connection between this trio and their global audience is not passive. It is not the detached admiration of people watching celebrities from a distance. It is something that functions far more like family. In online communities. From Facebook groups in Argentina to YouTube comment sections watched by fans in South Korea, the discussions about Piero, Ignacio, and Gianluca's personal happiness carry a specific emotional quality. Fans want them to be loved. They want them to be well. They speak about the 3 men with a protectiveness and a genuine care that transcends the transactional dynamics of celebrity fandom. When glimpses of personal happiness have surfaced, a smile that seemed too specific to be generic, a social media post that carried the warmth of private joy, the fan community has responded with something remarkable. Not jealousy. Not possessiveness. But a kind of communal exhale. A collective good. As if hundreds of thousands of people, scattered across continents, simultaneously felt relief that someone they cared about was okay. That is what IL Volo has built. Not just a fan base. A community bound together by the belief that beauty, in music, in brotherhood, in love, is worth protecting. And that the men who bring them that beauty deserve to find it for themselves, too. There is a recording. It has circulated among dedicated fans for years. It is from a live performance. The exact city is disputed, some say it was during a South American tour, others believe it was in Italy, but the moment itself is undeniable. IL Volo is mid-performance. They are singing one of their iconic love songs. The crowd is enormous. The lighting is soft and gold. And in the space between 2 phrases, in a silence so brief it barely exists, the 3 of them look at each other. Not for the audience. Not for the cameras. It is a private look. 3 men who have traveled the world together, who have been young together, who have struggled and succeeded and grown up in front of millions of strangers, and in this one unguarded moment, they simply look at each other. The cameras caught it. Fans who watched the footage said it broke them open in ways they could not explain. Because what they saw was not performance. What they saw was love. Real, non-romantic, indelible love. The love of people who have become essential to each other. The love that does not require words because it was forged in shared music and shared sacrifice and years of becoming. In that single glance between 3 men on a stage, 1,000 love songs became true. That moment matters more than any relationship status. That moment is the answer to the question this article began with. Who holds the hearts of Piero, Ignacio, and Gianluca? In the end, they hold each other. And the music holds all 3. We live in an era that reduces people to their relationship status. That measures worth by who is beside someone at a dinner table, who appears in a photograph, who has been confirmed by a tabloid. IL Volo has never played by those rules. And in not playing by those rules, they have taught their global audience something quietly profound. They have taught us that the love we give through art is real love. That the vulnerability of a perfectly sung note is an act of intimacy. That 3 young men from small Italian towns who chose music over comfort, passion over safety, brotherhood over rivalry, they chose love every single time, even when they could not have named it as such. Piero, Ignacio, and Gianluca are not legends because of who they love privately. They are legends because of how they love publicly. Through every performance, every note, every standing ovation earned, every tear coaxed from an audience that came to a concert hall carrying their own grief, their own longing, their own half-healed loves, and found in the music something that said, "You are not alone." That is the relationship status that matters most. Volo, and their audience. 3 voices and the world. A love story 15 years in the making, and still being written. They gave us their voices. We gave them our hearts. And somewhere in that exchange, we all became a little less alone. Thank you for watching Elite Star Global. If this moved you, if you felt even a fraction of what we felt writing this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your thoughts below. Tell us, which of the 3 speaks to your heart the most, and why? Because this channel was built for people who believe that music is love made audible. And you, being here, prove that it is.